In this video, we will create and examine new Spring Boot project. So we will use the project initialization service to create the Spring Boot project. First, let's go to the browser by going to the direct to the start.spring.io. Here it is to create the Spring Boot project, and we will later use the IDE to create the Spring Boot project. Okay, we can choose the build tool. Here the language is Java, and we can add the dependency. So here I will use the web dependency. Okay, with the help of the starter dependencies, we don't need to go and search for all the dependencies that we will use for the web application. So we choose the Spring Web, and it will find all the version that is needed for the Spring Web and the dependencies. So here in the project metadata, we can choose the group. We can put the group that is whatever you choose as the group. Coding techniques I will use here, coding techniques. Okay, and for the name of the project I will use Spring Boot tutorial. Okay, and description here I will use Spring Boot tutorial. Again, Spring Boot tutorial. So the name of the package I will just leave it as coding techniques. Here you can choose the packaging, either a jar or a war. I will use this as jar. I will leave it as jar, and the Java I am using the 17 here. So once you finish, then you can click on the generate. Okay, so by going to the download, you can see your Spring Boot tutorial project, and you can unzip this, extract here. Okay, so once you extract, you can see your Spring Boot project that you create. So you can import it into your IDE. So, and here in the IDE STS, we can import our new project. Okay, so the STS also integrate the project initialization service. We can decide to create the project from here. So let's create new project for the Spring Boot. Go to create. We can choose the Spring Boot starter project. Here it is, and it will connect us to the start.spring.io. okay, so the name of the project is Spring Boot as the first project that we create. I will also use Spring Boot tutorial as the name of the project, and I will use Maven Java version 17, and the group I will use the coding techniques. So here the description I will change is to the Spring Boot tutorial. Okay, so when we click next, we can choose the dependency. That is, I will use web dependency. Once you finish, then click on finish. It will create the new Spring Boot project. Now we have another new Spring Boot project. Okay, so and the next thing we will do, we will examine this project. So let's look at what Spring Boot configured into our new project. Here we have a new project that we create. You can see we have these 3 folders. That is the source folder. It contains all the source code for our application. When we click on the first folder, you can see we have the bootstrapper class, that is the class that start our application. That is the class that is used to kick the application. So click on the class. You can see here is the class. Okay, this line that you see here, it used to kick the application, and we also have this annotation at Spring Boot application. So this at Spring Boot application enable component scanning and auto configuration, and it consists of 3 annotations here. That is the at configuration, the at component scan, and the at enable auto configuration. So this is this folder. Okay, let's close it and look the next folder. So this folder we have, you can see application.properties. So this folder we use to configure properties value for our app. Okay, and you can see we have template. That template consists of the HTML file that we will have, and in the static we have images, JavaScript file, and as well as the CSS file. Okay, so let's close this and then open this again. You can see we have the text for the application inside this. That is all the text for the application goes to this folder, separate folder. When you click, it will open the, you can see here is the class. So the first 3 folders that we have contain all the source code for the application, and as you can see we have the pom.xml here. That is the where we will find the dependencies for our project. Okay, when you open the pom.xml file, the first thing you can see we have this parent. The Spring Boot pom parent is a default configuration dependency and responsible for providing compatible version for the dependency you will add to your project. You can see here we have the group ID that we added for our project, artifact ID that we added for the project, the name of the project, and also the description for the project, Spring Boot tutorial, that is below this parent that we have. Okay, so we also have the dependency tag, dependencies, where we have our Spring Boot starter web dependency. Okay, and you can see we also, it comes with another dependency that is Spring Boot starter test. Okay, you can see we have no version here because Spring Boot automatically provide the right version for our application. So we also have this plugin. So this plugin are able to package the project as an executable jar, and it's responsible for adding part of the default configuration to our app. So when you open this file that we have Maven dependency here, you can see we have a lot of files. That is because Spring Boot provide a lot of default configuration to our application. So that is why you can see this file. But when you create a new Maven project that is not Spring Boot, when you open the Maven dependencies, you can hardly see a lot of files. So let's run our application here. So run as Spring Boot application. So our Spring Boot application, you can see it is running. So you can see our application started on port 8080. As we said, Spring Boot provides you with some default configuration based on the dependency you added. So we added Spring Starter Web dependency, and you can see it provides the Tomcat as a default configuration for this. So now that we create and examine the new Spring Boot project, let's try to get something out of the new Spring Boot project that we create. So let's create new class and name this home controller. Okay, so the class home controller is about to be ready. Okay, so here is the home controller class, and let's annotate this with @controller to mark this as a Spring bin. We use the stereotype annotation and it will add this class to the Spring container. Okay, and let's create new method here, public string. Let's name it home, and this is expected to return a home page, and we will have home.html. we will create this home.html later, that is a HTML file. Okay, so now the next thing we need to add the @request mapping. So if we make a request to the home, it will associate the request with this method. Okay, it used to associate the request with the action. Okay, so let's add the home part. We will get our home.html when we try to request this home. Okay, so now let's create inside the static. So static folder is a default place where the Spring Boot app expect to find the pages to render. So now let's create HTML file here. HTML file. Next, name this home. Okay, and let's have the h1 and just have home here. When we try to request the home at the 8080, it will return this page. Okay, so now let's go to the browser and click access this 8080 home. So you can see we accesses the home that we just have. Okay, so this is what we have, and in the next video we will look at the Spring MVC architecture. Okay, see you in the next video.